And we are on this Friday getting ready for that weekend ahead. Welcome in everyone to this First Alert Weather Extra. I am Jeff Morrow joining you from the First Alert desk, and what we are watching is definitely a bit of fog out there early this morning. Don't know if you ran into the super fog that actually formed in some parishes. That was over in Ascension, St. James Parish, and Lower Lafourche Parish. That's where we had a combination of fog as well as wildfire smoke, and it can cause extremely low visibilities and cause some heavy traffic congestion problems for those folks in those areas. So let's talk about fog this morning, because fog's going to be probably problematic for us in the coming days because of the current pattern that we're in. What we're dealing with right now is what we call radiation fog, and so the factors leading to that formation, you get the daytime heat that's escaping the ground during clear nights with light winds. And so as that kind of setup happens, we see this thin layer of moisture underneath drier air higher up in the sky. And so that rising air from the surface passes quickly through this moist level here, and that actually causes some condensation. So what happens is the moist layer does not absorb much heat, and the air surface cools actually quicker than the upper air. So we get this sort of stacking of air mixing that doesn't allow it to really mix all that much. The cooler and moist air kind of stabilizes itself closer to the surface and causes that condensation to take place, and then we get that fog formation from forming. So as the moisture kind of rises, it turns into vapor, and then that fog begins to form. So that is kind of the breakdown of radiation fog, and if it gets thick enough, we typically get dense fog advisories. And of course, as we are located here along the Gulf Coast, we've got an abundant moisture stream coming in off the Gulf a lot of times. So when we look at dense fog prone areas, you can see we're highlighted here kind of in the 30 to 40 days out of the year category. So this is the average number of days per year that we see dense fog in particular areas, and you can see kind of highlighting here areas around the Gulf Coast, and then you've got areas in the Appalachian Mountains, and of course up towards the Northeast with those higher potential for seeing some of that dense fog potential in the area. But we talk about super fog then becoming problematic, and that is when we get fog enhanced by smoke. And we've had a couple of fire contingencies where we've had wildfire spread risk concerns because of how dry we have been overall. So the air is moist, but the ground is dry, and so that's causing some fires to kind of build up. So smoke adds what we call microscopic particles to the air, and it's called a condensation nuclei. And so we can have what we call wet burns that can add moisture to the air. And so as we're enhancing moisture, we're really thickening the fog potential. And so because of that, the smoke itself can actually add to the reductions in visibility. And that's what we saw this morning in a few select parishes where we had nearby wildfires. So because they're not as expansive, it's not dealing with widespread situations of super fog, but certainly something to keep an eye on as we make our way towards the next couple of days over the weekend. If you're going to be traveling early morning towards New Orleans, you may run into that super fog, especially if you're going to be traveling through Ascension and St. James parishes. So the thickness is going to be mainly patchy fog for the next couple of days, but we're going to see an average visibility reduction down to a half mile to maybe 2 miles, but we could see even lower than that in some localized spots, but in terms of average visibility. So it's early morning hours, kind of 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. where we're going to see most of our problematic fog, and that will continue Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and even into Wednesday. So as we get through the weekend and the start of the following work week, we're going to continue to deal with some of this fog. So some of those tips: use those low beam headlights, give yourself some extra time to get out the door, leave extra space between cars, and then also, more importantly, watch for those kiddos that could be out playing early Saturday morning, and then as we get into the school week, watch out for them at area bus stops. So here's the 7-day forecast. You can see things are expected to stay mild in terms of temperatures. That's another kind of critical element here in terms of our fog potential. Morning lows continuing to climb towards the 60-degree mark. We'll start to receive that as we get into the early part of next week, but your weekend plans look pretty good. Saturday and Sunday looking dry. We'll see mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies for both days as we see temperatures in the 80s, so pretty comfortable for whatever outdoor plans that you may have for the local area. So that's a look at your weather extra on this Friday. We appreciate you joining us here on our WAFB streams.
Southern Air of Baton Rouge says no, 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 no interest, no money down, no payments for 12 months on HVAC, plumbing, and electrical services. Scan the QR code on your screen to learn more.
I'm Lawyer Locke Meredith. If you're battling an insurance company because of a wreck not your fault and they're not calling you back or being fair, whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555, or email Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. You have nothing to lose.